Ladies and gentlemen, we often have conversations with people who have a significant role to play in communities, and today it's our privilege to interview Fred Riebeling, who's been the Commissioner with the town of Port Hedland for almost the last year and has been playing a significant role in the leadership of Port Hedland during this really critical time of COVID-19. So welcome, Fred.
Yeah, thanks very much, Alan.
How have you found your role in Port Hedland during this time?
Well, it's varied over the last 12 months. Originally, I found that the community expectation of councils was very low, that people didn't expect their council to produce very much because it was so dysfunctional that they couldn't agree on anything, basically. In the last 12 months, we've released 4 master plans, and that will guide infrastructure development for the next probably 3 or 4 years and change the very nature of Hedland, in my view. We will spend probably $120 million in the next 3 years on infrastructure, and organisations such as Hedland Collective play a significant role in identifying opportunities and also delivering some of the projects that really people are saying is required. And one of the really positive things to come out of our partnership with the Hedland Collective, of course, is the problems when I first got here with daycare that still exist. There's a significant gap in the supply and demand curve in relation to that industry. The Hedland Collective and the town of Port Hedland have got involved with putting together 2 daycare initiatives that have now been completed and built. One was the refurbishment of the TAFE centre, which was a daycare centre but needed significant upgradings, and the other was turning a library in Port Hedland into a daycare centre. So those 2 projects that the Hedland Collective and Port Hedland Town delivered increased the numbers of kiddies that can be assisted. Almost 100 extra kids can now be accommodated, which helps industry and helps everyone in Port Hedland, really. It's one of the major reasons for people leaving Port Hedland was daycare. We're hoping that slowly changes. So
that's a significant outcome for the relationship that you've had with the Hedland Collective. Just explain briefly what the Hedland Collective means as far as the Shire is concerned, or the town of Port Hedland is concerned, and how you might work together.
Well, we work as closely as we can with the Hedland Collective. We raise issues that we can work on together to come to a mutually beneficial outcome for our community. We are trying to get more and more people involved in the Hedland Collective so that the more resources and the more people understand the issues in Port Hedland, the more we can deal with them positively. It is an important partnership, one that I value extremely highly, and as I say, one that has delivered a significant asset to 2 significant assets to the Hedland community. And if every year we produce something of that nature, this will be probably one of the most important partnerships that the town of Hedland can ever be involved with. We have other partners in relation to that. The Hedland Collective and the involvement with BHP is significant. My hope is that some other major companies are become as active as BHP have been through the collective. But the collective itself is only as good as the people that are involved in it, and I'm proud to be part of that organisation at the present, and I'll be there until I leave.
It's been a fantastic initiative to bring people together, and we were always talking about you can only be stronger together. So it's actually a very good example of that. Fred, the COVID-19's had a big impact on the community. Firstly, personally, how have you found it being in Port during this time?
A lot of people find the isolation and the like to be, not having a social life and the like to be quite restrictive. Personally, at my age, it hasn't changed my life at all. It's a sad indictment on my life, I suppose. But a lot of people have found it quite difficult to comply with the rules, and the restrictions that applies. And we've had huge community support in relation to that. We've only had one case of COVID-19 that affected Port Hedland. So, presumably the vast majority of people have complied. We set out on the journey in relation to COVID-19 to do what we thought was best, which was complying with the state rules. One of the things we did initially was make a decision to not sack anyone in relation to our facilities. We closed them down as we were told. We redistributed that workforce to other areas within the council. And for a period of time, I suppose, we had surplus capacity of people, but that was part of the price we paid to keep people employed. And it's a very important part, in my view, of making sure we can come out of this pandemic as in the best situation as possible. Other areas that we supported were like the Tourism Visitors Centre, our art gallery. They were still continued to be funded, so that when the tourists start arriving, we're in a position to continue to service that area for tourism. Some of the other things that we did, of course, we froze wages and rates and service charges at last year's rates, which cost probably between $1 and $2 million, that initiative. I know a lot of councils did that, but we were one of the first to commit to that. We announced that we would be bringing forward as many capital works programs as we could to maximise the local content of what we were doing up here. And through the expert workings of our staff, we've identified those projects that will have the maximum local content and prioritise them in our upcoming budget. Our budget is presented next month. Now, that will have, without wishing to preempt it, in excess of $70 million worth of the capital works. So it's not insignificant. It has a regional significance to that amount, and it will improve a large number of infrastructure needs within our community. So, as I say, they've been prioritised to make sure that the local people get as much out of that as is possible. We also set up a fund which is worth about $1 million to encourage small business people that have suffered during the COVID-19, and also community organisations that in many cases haven't had any customers since the COVID-19. And we put together two separate programs where small business can claim up to $10,000 by way of a grant. It's not a loan, it's a grant to help them survive and employ people. And we've done the same for community groups. They can claim up to $10,000 also. And we put just under $1 million in that fund. So we're hoping that people respond to that and make a claim for the grants. But that's kind of a quick summary of what we put in place.
Yeah.
Last week, we also have a regional preference system for small business. Last week, in our budget, we gave out contracts worth, I think, close to $7 to $7.5 million. All those contracts went to local small businesses. So, if people want to say, well, you said it, we're actually delivering it here. And I'm very excited about that. And I hope that the vast majority of the 70-odd million that will come in the budget will go to local companies. So, so at least we don't have the capital works programs stifled by companies that can't employ people.
Fred, it's been really interesting talking to you about the significant things that the council has done both together and with the Headland Collective. I know that one of the things that you did together was to put out neighbour cards and encourage people to support each other on the street. Have you noticed how the community has come together during this time?
Yeah, it's interesting how the smaller the community, I suppose, the stronger the capacity is to build that, generate that community feel. I suppose, all those events, things that the Headland Collective and Council has put together, it's hard to work out exactly how responsive we are to that. But simple things like, not simple things, when we had the misfortune of having a chap kind of run amok with a knife in Port Hedland at the shopping centre, the way the community rallied around the people that witnessed and experienced that is an example of how strong this community is in working together. And that's one of the great things about the Headland Collective. And there's no doubt that we are much stronger if we work together in relation to that. And once again, I congratulate an organisation that really is built on building community. And I think that's well worth investing. So.
Fred, thank you so much for your time today. We've been speaking to Fred Riebeling, who is the Commissioner at the town of Port Hedland, and he's been giving us many examples of how the town of Port Hedland, working with the Headland Collective, is proving that stronger together is the best way to behave during a crisis called a pandemic. But in any situation, working together creates great outcomes. So thank you very much, Fred.
Thanks, Alan. Thank you.